I'm Heath Lambert. You're listening to Marked by Grace, a podcast applying the grace of Jesus to all of life. Welcome to Marked by Grace. I'm Heath Lambert, and I'm so glad to be with you. One of the reasons I'm glad to be with you is because this is the second week of the release of my new book called The 10 Commandments, a short book for normal people. You can tell the audience of the book by the subtitle. I'm trying to write a book that is accessible to people like you and your friends and your family. I hope you'll use it to grow up into the knowledge of the Lord Jesus and into a knowledge of the truth. You can get it wherever, at places like Amazon, but if you go to fbcjacks.com/10 commandments, that's fbcjacks with an x.com/10 commandments, and that's TEN commandments, then you can get information about the book, and you can also download a free chapter of the book. And so I hope that will be a help to you. On Marked by Grace this week, and for the last several weeks, I've been privileging questions about the 10 Commandments in honor of the release of that book. And this week, I'm answering a question you sent in that's a very good question, and that is a very relevant question. And here it is a white lie wrong? Is it wrong to tell, as they say, a little white lie? Now, you might have a different question you want me to answer or a different issue you'd like me to address. If you do, you can send it into markedbygrace@fbcjacks.com. That's markedbygrace@fbcjacks with an x.com, and I'll get to as many of your questions as I can. But this week, you're asking about a little white lie, and you're wondering if it's wrong. And the reason you're asking the question is because a white lie is a lie that seems like a victimless crime. It seems like nobody gets hurt. In fact, in a true white lie, not only might it seem like nobody's getting hurt, it actually might seem like people are being helped. It might seem like you're doing some good. So, for example, a white lie. Oh, I didn't see your text, in response to somebody who wonders why you didn't text them back. Or I was just about to call you, in response to somebody who is maybe reaching out to you on the phone in a bit of a frustrated way. Or you show up late to a meeting and you say traffic was bad when you just didn't plan ahead and you slept in and whatever. So those are the kinds of things that seem like little white lies. It seems like it solves a problem rather than creating a problem. And you're asking if it's wrong. Well, to answer the question about whether it's wrong, first question we need to ask is, what is a lie? Before we can know if a white lie is wrong, we need to know if a lie is wrong. And so what is a lie? What is a lie? Well, a lie is the report of a situation that is intentionally incorrect. A lie is not an error. It's not a mistake. It's not a goof up. It's when you know the reality and you intentionally give a report about that reality that is at odds with the reality. When you intentionally give a report about a reality that is different, that is called a lie, and we're not allowed to do it. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16 says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." So the 9th commandment says you are not allowed to lie. And the reason you're not allowed to do it is because it is wrong. When God knows the truth, when God knows reality, and you agree with what God knows, but you intentionally report away from that reality, you are sinning against the Lord, whether the lie is relatively big or whether the lie is relatively little. If you think about the story of Ananias and Sapphira in Acts chapter 5, Ananias and Sapphira sell a piece of property and they donate a portion of the proceeds to the church, but they say they donated the whole proceeds of the property to the church. You can make an argument that is a little white lie. Well, we didn't say a big lie. I mean, we did give money to the church, and maybe we even gave a whole big bunch of money to the church. What difference does it make if we said we gave the whole sale of the property to the church when we only gave a little bit? What difference could it possibly make? Isn't it just a small little white lie? Well, the problem is that God executes Ananias and Sapphira for their lie. And when their sentence is pronounced, the sentence of death comes down not because of the size of the lie or whether it was white or something else. The sentence comes down because of who they lied to. In Acts chapter 5, verse 4, the apostle says, "You have not lied to men, but to God." Okay, so when Ananias and Sapphira gave the false report about the amount of money they were giving to the church, and they said that to the apostles and the leader of the church, the apostle said, "Hey, when you did that, you were talking to us, but you lied to the Lord." So these things are sinful because they are sins against the Lord. And so is it wrong to tell a white lie? Yes, it is wrong to tell a white lie because it is not the size of the lie that matters. It is not the relative importance or unimportance of the report that you give as judged by you. The standard is what God knows. And when you intentionally misportray what God knows, you sin because you sin against Him. Listen, when we tell white lies, most of the time we do it because of relational pressure. We feel like we just want to relieve some relational pressure. This person can get their feelings hurt if I tell them the truth, and so I'll just tell a little white lie to protect them. Or this person's going to be sad, or it's going to cause damage over in this relationship. So instead of getting into all that, I'm just going to tell a little white lie. I'm going to conceal all the problem and make it go away. Now, here's the problem with that. You're right to want to love people and serve them and have relationships be easy. But what is black in our hearts is that our instinct to do that leads us to be dishonest. There's ways to insulate relationships and pad relationships and sort of protect relationships from the consequences of all sorts of things. But when it's our instinct to do that by sinning, it shows far from anything about a white lie. It shows that our hearts are really in a dark and a bad spot. So instead of telling a white lie, when we want to cushion relationships from difficulty, we should try to find a way to do that in a way that tells the truth. So when somebody expresses that they're upset that we haven't responded to their text message, instead of saying, "Oh, I didn't see your text," and be dishonest, we could say, "Oh my goodness, I keep forgetting to text you. I'm so sorry." When someone is frustrated that it's been too long since we've called, and they call us, instead of saying, "Oh, I was just about to call you," instead of lying, we could say, "I'm so glad to hear your voice. Thank you for calling." When we show up late to a meeting, instead of lying about the traffic, we can just say, "I'm so sorry I was late." There are ways to speak into a situation and try to make it easier and avoid relational consequences besides telling a little white lie. We shouldn't do it because regardless of how we describe it, a lie is always wrong because it's always a sin against God.